Yay! Assalamu alaikum, everybody. We are now live. Joining me is Huda. Say hi, Huda.
Alaikum, guys.
Awesome. So this is the first time that we've done Huda and I on YouTube, and how it works basically is whoever is talking is who you're going to see. So she hasn't gone anywhere. If you can't see her right now, she is still there. So let's get started. What we're going to do is I'm going to talk for a little bit, and then Huda will take it away, and then we'll take your questions. I apologize that this looks so ghetto because I have, I'm moving, I'm in the process of moving, and so everything is just a crazy mess. So this is like, this will have to do for today. All right, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen ar-Rahman ar-Rahim Maliki Yawm al-Din. إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين. Okay, so the topic that we are discussing today is self-love and the issues of insecurity and self-esteem and confidence and all that. And the reason why I chose this topic is because a few weeks ago now, I asked you guys what your New Year's resolutions were. And a lot of you said that your resolutions were to love yourself, basically, and to not be so hard on yourselves. And when I read all those comments, it made me feel as though, you know, this is a topic worth addressing. And clearly there is some sort of issue amongst our community with this feeling of insecurity or lack of confidence, whether that's in ourselves and our faith, etc. So that's kind of where the topic came about. And it's always a good topic to talk about in any case, particularly as women, because I think it's something that we as women suffer with more so probably than men. So I'm going to just start really quickly by talking about self-esteem. So self-esteem and confidence are two different things, and self-esteem is the basis of confidence. If you have a low self-esteem, then you are very likely not to be very confident. And there are two components of self-esteem. So the first one is a feeling of competence, of personal competence. So meaning that you have a trust or a certain level of confidence in yourself, that you can face challenges, overcome them, and also succeed and thrive in any given situation or opportunity. The second component is a feeling of personal worth. So having a sense of self-worth and gratitude with respect to the blessings that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given you, feeling that you deserve those blessings and that you are worthy of a great life, of a healthy and prosperous and happy and productive life. So this feeling of personal worth. So these are the two components of self-esteem, and these are the two things that you need in order to have healthy self-esteem, and then secondly, a feeling of confidence. So I think that particularly in today's society, it's difficult for a lot of us women, and Muslim or not, because every day we are kind of bombarded with images of what we should be doing, of what we should look like, of what our career should look like, how we should be a parent, how we should be a friend. And we get really caught up a lot of times in that image that society just throws in our face. And particularly as Muslim women, that can be extremely difficult because that image is 100% at odds with our Islamic views and values. You know, I'm speaking very particularly about, you know, this feeling that basically the pressures of beauty, I think, is kind of what I'm getting at. And, you know, if we look at the things that we watch on TV or the people that we follow on social media, all those things have a real direct impact. And if you look at what society is pumping out, again, it's all very much at odds with our values. And so imagine as a Muslim woman feeling insecure about wearing hijab, for example, or feeling ugly can lead you to perhaps taking it off. So So before I get more into that insecurity, I want to just first of all talk a little bit about confidence. My definition of confidence, and I actually felt good when I was doing the research for this, and that I found that same definition while I was doing the research, so it gave me some backing. So number one, I define confidence as number one, knowing your strengths and what you're good at. And I've talked about this so many times, so I'm sorry if this is repetitive for you. But so number one, knowing your strengths and doing something about those strengths. And number two, knowing your weaknesses and working on them. And then once you have your strengths and your weaknesses, you are serving Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and hopefully you're using one of those strengths to serve him. So truly knowing yourself and knowing what your strengths are and what you're good at and what you can do that most people cannot is extremely important. And going back to that self-worth, we all have to know and understand that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created each and every single one of us uniquely, with a unique set of talents and abilities and skills. And my skills and my talents are different than Huda's, who are different than, you know, her friends and everyone else. Everybody has their own God-given talents. And so we each need to, number one, figure out what that is. And then number two, nurture those talents and those skills and figure out, okay, how am I going to use this set of skills to serve Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in this dunya? You know, to make my surroundings a better place, to serve my community, to, you know, perhaps that's how I'm going to make a career out of it. That's going to be my hobby, whatever it is. You have to really hone in on your strengths. And if you've never done this exercise, I actually think it's really beneficial to write it down. Get out a piece of paper, draw a line down the middle, write strengths and weaknesses at the top, and sit there and be very honest with yourself. Now is not the time to be modest, because you have to be super brutally honest. And that's part of what I was saying of the self-worth, of acknowledging that you do have these talents and you have these skills. So don't be modest. Write down what your strengths are, anything and everything. And then in the second column, write down all your weaknesses. And I was reading somewhere where it was like, when you're done with that, cross out weaknesses and write challenges, which I thought was really cool, because that knowing that column is something that you need to work on and constantly work towards, because we all have our set of weaknesses as well. So once you kind of have those things figured out, you automatically have a sense of self-confidence, because you're sure of yourself. Not only do you have those things figured out, but like I said before with the self-esteem, you have this sense of self-confidence as well of worthiness, that yes, I know I can do these things, and number two, I am worthy of us. And to not acknowledge or to not work on these strengths is almost like a denial of his blessings that he's given us. So it's extremely important that we're truly honest with ourselves and thinking about what those strengths are. Now, having self-confidence does not mean that we don't need the help of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, or people, for that matter, to advise or to help us. And this is exactly what the Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam asked Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for in his dua, when he used to say, "Oh Allah, for your mercy, I hope that you do not abandon me to myself, even for the blink of an eye. I hope that you do not abandon me to myself." So basically, don't leave me alone. Set all my affairs straight. There is no God but you. So the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam was extremely, not only was he extremely capable, but he knew what his strengths were. And he played up those strengths. And even so, and him being the prophet, the messenger of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, he still said, don't leave me alone. You know, so having confidence doesn't mean that, okay, I have all these great qualities and I don't need Allah, because remember where those qualities came from. And as quickly as Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave us those qualities, he can definitely take them away from us. So keep in mind that obviously we still need the help of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and others around us, regardless of how confident you may be. So now back to insecurity. So like I was saying, and I wasn't articulating myself very clearly, but I think that there are two issues that I wanted to talk about. So Number one is insecurity within our faith, and number two, insecurity as women. So within our faith, I think that, and I haven't lived in the US for 4 years. So alhamdulillah, I haven't had to struggle with any of those issues that a lot of you have when it comes to, you know, feeling as though you have to explain your faith, or feeling embarrassed about it, or feeling insecure about it, or not wanting to speak up, or kind of putting your head down because you know, out of embarrassment or whatever it is. And I can imagine that that is probably happening more and more within today's political climate, particularly in the US, if that's where you're from. But when I think about that, I think about how we have the best way of life that was sent down to us, and we're so extremely blessed to have it. And the fact that we would ever feel embarrassed or ashamed or insecure about that is mind-boggling to me when you think about how extremely lucky and blessed we are to have this hidayah and this guidance, and how, you know, we should not be the ones bowing down to this imperfect system that's making us insecure when we have that perfect way of life. Just as a personal anecdote, I was actually here in Dubai with a friend of mine, and we were at a water park, and we were both wearing, you know, Islamic swimwear, like burkini type outfits, and you know, they're non-traditional, so when you're wearing it, you feel a little self-conscious, but we're in a Muslim country, so for me, I don't feel anything at all, because people are used to it, and there's a ton of other people wearing them, and we're all Muslim. But she was still feeling, my friend was feeling a little insecure about it, and was just like, we were walking out of the dressing room, and she was like, man, I bet people think that we're like such freaks. And I was like, what are you talking about? We are not the freaks. We are covering ourselves because we have respect for ourselves and our bodies. Are you kidding me? Look at these women who are half naked. Like, how can you say that? We should be looking at them like that. I'm not saying we should be judging anybody, but what I'm saying is if anyone looks like the freak, it is not us. It's people who think it's okay to walk around in next to nothing. But yet society has allowed her and I to feel as though to cover up and to wear, you know, that type of outfit is weird or freakish, when subhanAllah, we're the ones with the hidayah. We're the ones who are right. We are the ones who are right. And so, you know, when I said that to her, she was like, man, you're right. Like, why am I even tripping? Like, this is so dumb. And I feel like that's just like a small example in a larger context of many things that we're made to feel embarrassed about or insecure about. And I think it's always extremely important to remember that, listen, we are and we have the truth, and Islam is the truth. And never ever feel ashamed or embarrassed for the things that you do, whether you need to pray in public, or you're fasting, or wearing hijab, or you know, having a beard, or whatever it is. You should feel the exact opposite of that, which is very, very proud to be doing those things, because you know that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is with you, because what you're doing is right and what you believe is the truth. So you know, so that's basically what I wanted to talk about when it came to insecurity within our faith. Now, secondly, as women, it is so difficult, and I know for a lot of women, they're really, really suffering with self-loathing and almost like self-hatred. And I think that us as a community, we really suffer with this, even as minorities, let alone as Muslims. Like, particularly, I remember growing up, I grew up in a masjid that was primarily Desi. So I would just remember the comments that were made. I remember there was somebody whose like away message on AIM, y'all can tell how old I am, was like, I didn't choose to be brown, God made me this way, something like that. And I was just like, I remember at that young age reading that and being like, man, that person, like, I feel bad that that person is trapped within his body that he cannot change, and he dislikes it. And that's something we suffer with as a community 100%, this like self-loathing and putting ourselves down and feeling inferior. But particularly as women, like I was saying, you know, it's part and parcel kind of like the society that we live in, unfortunately. And we're so extremely critical about ourselves and particularly our looks, because we have in front of us all these images of you know, what society considers beautiful, and we feel like we can't live up to that when we're not acknowledging the fact that none of that is real. None of it is real at all. And so we're judging and scrutinizing ourselves against this image that doesn't even exist. And so of course we're going to be insecure and have low self-esteem and not feel confident. But I feel like the second that you let that go, that image of what you think you should look like, and truly, truly just embrace yourself and everything that you are physically, the second that you do that, all of those insecurities will just wash away. If you can truly, truly, I mean, like, really do it with all your heart, just accept that this is how I look. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created me this way. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala does not make mistakes. I love Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, so I know that He created me in the right way. And the second that you come to that realization and you believe it with all of your heart, then trust me, those insecurities will just wash away. And that's not to say that you don't have to do other things to kind of help you keep that mentality, but that's the first step. Now, really quickly, I'm gonna just go through some tips for enhancing self-esteem and hopefully gaining confidence in yourself. So number one is to stop putting yourself down. You know, we are a manifestation of our thoughts. And if you are thinking to yourself how ugly or dumb or, you know, like unaccomplished or unworthy you are, that's how you're going to feel. And not only are you going to feel that way, you're going to project that energy, and other people around you are going to believe that about yourself. So you actually have to, if that is how you feel and if that's kind of what you do, you have to literally train yourself to talk about and to treat yourself well. And then in return, insist others to do the same. Because if you put yourself down around somebody else, even if they didn't think that about you, they're going to now think that about you. You know, and I was always very careful not to put myself down in front of other people, because I knew the direct impact that would have on another person, that idea would get put in their head. And it would be difficult to take that idea out. And so even when, you know, I'm even careful about the words that I use to describe myself when I am trying to talk about my weaknesses, because, you know, what you say about yourself holds a ton of weight, not only for yourself, but for others. So stop putting yourself down. Get these negative self-loathing talk attitudes out of your vocabulary, out of your system. Start within, and you know, stop doing that, basically. Number two, work on the strengths. So like I was saying earlier about the strengths and the weaknesses, now that you have that whole list of what my strengths are, now you need to figure out, okay, what can I do about it? What am I going to do? And when you know that you have a certain capability or a certain talent, and you hone in on it and you manifest that talent, trust me, that confidence just oozes out of you, because you know that you're good at this thing and you know you can do it well. And when you're doing it to serve Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, see, that's where we as Muslims, we have this differentiation. When you're doing that to serve Allah, then you know that you're on the right track and you feel confident about what you're doing, because, I mean, who wouldn't feel confident when serving Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, you know, with a strength or a talent that He's given you. The third point is tawakkul. So tawakkul means having trust in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and His wisdom and His plan. And the more tawakkul and the more trust that you have in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the greater your self-confidence will be. So the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, I asked Angel Gabriel, what is tawakkul? And the angel replied, recognizing the truth that a creature can neither harm nor benefit, and not to have your eyes on the wealth of others. When a servant of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala acquires these traits, he will act only for Allah and will not have any hope in other than him. This is the truth and the boundary of tawakkul. So truly having trust in him, knowing that you yourself as a person, you can neither harm nor benefit, because that comes from Allah, that doesn't come from you. The power is not within you. When you help somebody, yes, you were the vehicle, but it was Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala who helped that person. So when you recognize that and put your extreme trust in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the greater your self-confidence will be, because you know everything is from Allah. When something good happens, when something bad happens, the Rasul said the affairs of a Muslim are all good. When something good happens, that is good for him. And when something bad happens, he deals with it with patience and perseverance and fortitude, and that is also good for him. So knowing whatever happens, this is from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. You're not insecure. You're not like, oh, is that because I'm weak here and I'm unaccomplished here and I don't have these skills? No, it's because Allah didn't want it for you, right? So having tawakkul is extremely important in the role that confidence will play in your life. The fourth point is your surroundings. So who are you surrounding yourself around? Are your friends and your family bringing you up or bringing you down? I mean, tell me who your friends are and I'll tell you who you are. So are they influencing you in such a way that they're making you feel like you need to live a certain way that's at odds with your beliefs? Are they bringing you down? Are they putting you down? Are they making you feel insecure or that you have a low self-worth? Think about that. And if they're family, you need to talk to them about it. If they're friends, you need to think about how you can, if you can, address it with them. And if not, distance yourself from those people. In addition to your surroundings, I wrote a whole blog post about this, about unfollowing the Kardashians, which basically is code for like people who are not in line with your values. Who are you following on social media that's making you insecure? You know, like, I don't think we understand the weight, the impact that these images have on us when we're looking at them. Like, and way back in the first live stream, I was talking to you guys about this crisis of faith I had, and I literally just, I got up from prayer and I went straight to my phone and I deleted every, Kardashian account, every account like that personal friends and celebrities, and I just deleted them all because I don't need to look at it. And even though I thought I was immune and I'm strong enough to handle it, I'm not. None of us are. Those images permeate into your heart, whether you like it or not, and they're going to manifest in some way. And that's why oftentimes even we see Muslim women who are dressed like extremely inappropriately, but can we blame them? I mean, this is the image that they're seeing put out. And so those images are going to manifest through their dress and through their actions, regardless of whether or not they're Muslim or they're muhajjab, they wear hijab or they don't, and so we have to be really critical about what we're looking at, whether it's on social media or on TV. Like, I remember I used to get so upset at my like halaqa girls who watched like Gossip Girl and stuff. And I was like, you guys, it's called Gossip Girl. What the heck, or like Pretty Little Liars and stuff. Like there's inherent haram within the name, you guys. Like, what do you think is going to be within the show? So we have to be really careful about these things that we're letting into our heart. And lastly, and I'm sorry I've taken up so much time and Huda still needs to speak. The fifth point is to not seek approval from people, and realizing that our self-worth must be based on our iman and our connection with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and not in somebody else. Not your dad, not your mom, not your siblings, not your friends. Your approval does not, yes, it's nice to know that they're proud of you, but you do not need to feel insecure if they're not proud of you. We cannot seek the approval from other people. The approval comes from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala alone. And the test should be whether or not Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is happy with me. That's when I feel good or I feel down. When I feel as though Allah is displeased with me, I'm in the worst rut. And I'm doing everything I can to make sure that He is pleased with me. Because that is the only approval that I need, and that's the only relationship that really matters when it comes to my self-worth. And so I judge my own self and my self-worth based on how am I pleasing Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? How does He feel about me as His servant? So that's pretty much the last point, not seeking approval from people. All right, I'm going to turn it over to Huda, inshallah, and then we are going to take your questions. So take it away, Huda.
Okay, it's on me now, I'm talking? It's good?
Yeah.
Okay, that was awesome. First of all, I feel like I could just like sign off now and everything would be good because you said everything that needed to be said. But so I'll try to reiterate some of what Melanie said with my own kind of individual spin on it, but really that was like awesome. I feel like I need a moment to just digest what you said, but I'll do that after, inshallah. So Melanie did a really great job of kind of focusing on the Islamic perspective of things, and I'm glad that you did that because I'm going to try to take a more like spiritual / emotional angle on everything. And with that, obviously, I want to talk a lot about self-love and self-compassion. So the way I define self-love is kind of having a regard for your own well-being and your own happiness. And that can come from a lot of things. Obviously, happiness is a very complex thing. It's not just a feeling sometimes. It's the way you think, it's the way you feel, it's the way you view the world, and kind of the way you view yourself in the world. And so with that, I think self-compassion is extremely, extremely, extremely important. Even in Islam, like the concept of rahman, compassion and mercy is so, so, so important. Even one of the 99 names of Allah is Ar-Rahim because, he's compassionate. And when I think of that, the way I used to think of that, I've always thought it meant like compassion towards other people or towards the world or, whatever else. And I never really thought about having or needing to have compassion for myself. I never thought about giving myself mercy or just like giving myself the benefit of the doubt or letting myself off the hook sometimes and taking the time to just be kind to myself. So I think there's a few components that go into self-compassion. One of them being self-kindness. You really just need to be warm and understanding to yourself. You need to take the time, like Melanie said, evaluate your strengths and evaluate your weaknesses. And she's right, do not be modest. Like, you are awesome, and it is okay to feel awesome. It's okay to know that you are wonderful and great at so many things, I feel like sometimes confidence can get a bad rep or be mistaken for arrogance, and that's something that's always bothered me because the way I feel like arrogance is sort of how you feel about yourself in respect to the world or other people. Like, oh, I'm better at this person than this, or I look better at this, I do this better. When confidence is just how you feel about yourself. It doesn't have to do with anybody else. You're not thinking about you being better than anybody or doing things a different way. It's just simply how you feel about yourself and the way that you view yourself. And it's okay to be confident. It's okay to like yourself. I know we live in a society that really does emphasize like change and, you're not good enough at this or you don't look good enough and you need to do this and you need to change this about yourself. And of course, I'm all about like self-evolution and evolving and making like positive changes, but it shouldn't come from a negative place. You should always strive to be better, but you need to understand that the way you are is still great because that is exactly how Allah destined you to be. There's actually a quote that I've been like seeing floating around the internet lately that I absolutely love, and it's, how cool is it that the same God that created mountains and oceans and galaxies looked at you and decided that the world needed one of you too? How beautiful is it that of all the things that we have in this world and all the hikmah and wisdom that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has, He decided that there's a place for you in this world and that there is a purpose for you. And I think you really need to work hard at finding what your purpose is in this world and realizing that everybody's here for a different reason and we're all going to learn different things and we're going to come to different conclusions about life and we're going to be good and our capabilities are going to be different. We'll be bad at some things that other people are great at, and that's fine, I think the society definitely has like a mold or a certain standard that sometimes we feel we need to live up to, whether that be standards of beauty or in your career or anything, A lot of time life is sort of set like, okay, you need to go to school, you need to get this like 4-year degree, you need to look this way while you're doing it and make these kinds of friends and, this is what's right, this is what's cool, this is like what you need to be. And I think that can definitely lead to a lot of self-esteem and self-confidence issues because you're going to feel like you're not measuring up to whatever that standard is. And I think it's really important to try to understand that not everybody is going to be the same. You need to embrace your individuality and really just take a step back from the world, detach yourself from the expectations that you have or from the path that you feel like you're supposed to be on, and just really look at, what do I want? What am I good at? What am I capable of? And focus on those things and go from there. Don't try to achieve unrealistic standards. I'm not going to be a 6-foot model no matter how hard I would like to be or how, perfect that seems. I'm comfortable at 5'2", and there's not really much I can do about it, and that's okay. So self-compassion, just be kind to yourself, be understanding of who you are, and really take the time to get to know yourself. And I think another really important concept or really important part of self-compassion is like common humanity, is taking away the I from everything. We live in a pretty egocentric society where it's sort of I, me, and my wants, my needs, my feelings. And of course, it's important. You should prioritize yourself, but you need to understand that there are other people that are going through the same things that you are. And you just have to try to understand and just understand yourself in the spectrum of like all of humanity. You're not the only person that's going to be suffering with certain things. And of course, your suffering is important and it's difficult, and you should be kind to yourself in that aspect too. But I always see comfort in the fact that I know that I'm not the only one. Whatever you might be struggling with, or whatever is like weighing on you, you're not the only one. And that's just how humanity is. Things happen and it's okay, and it's going to get better, and it's not the end of the world. If you're not succeeding or excelling in school or whatever, or you're just uncomfortable with your body, you're not the only one, and it does get better. I always love the saying, this too shall pass. It really does. It's not the end of the world, and things will get better. And then another thing is, I think you really just need to have mindfulness of the larger picture in life. You have to really take a look at yourself, and it's okay to I feel like we just have to focus on understanding our emotions. I feel like we sort of live in a time and a place where negative emotions are very unwanted. Like, you're angry or sad, people tell you just get over it, whatever, which is a very hard thing to do. And I feel like sometimes you have to try and remove yourself from a situation and just kind of step out of your body and look at the situation with clarity and unbiased emotions, and just really, really understand what you're going through, and take the time to understand your emotions and give yourself the time to know what's bothering you and know who you are and what you need to do from there. I think it's great. You really do. I mean, it's great to know, where you stand, but you also have to make a plan of where am I going to go? And so basically, where I want to build off of that is ways that I think we can build our self-esteem. Pretty much Melanie said everything, so I'm probably just going to repeat everything that she just said. But I think the absolute most important part of self-esteem is going to be your attitude. If you know me, you know that my favorite motto is fake it till you make it. I hope you guys don't think that by me sitting here and talking about this means that I'm super confident and I don't have any self-esteem issues or any insecurities, because trust me, I absolutely do. But right now I'm just faking it till I make it. The attitude that you have about things is everything. If you put out this attitude of man, I suck at this and I'm not smart and I can't do this, Melanie is right. That's absolutely what everyone's going to perceive you to be as well. You're going to get that same energy back. But if maybe you're feeling a certain way and you're feeling down, but you try and put that energy out there anyways, I really, really do believe, and I've done this myself, I really do believe that attitude that you're faking becomes real. It's just sort of habit. If you have the habit of downing on yourself all the time and being this negative person, that's how you're always going to be. But if you start just practicing, even if you don't mean it yet, just practice saying nice things to yourself, practice being kind to yourself and putting a positive attitude out there, I really do believe that is something that will become real, and that's eventually how you'll start feeling about yourself. And one way that I do this, I've actually read a lot of studies about this, people that are going through depression, a lot of psychologists or psychiatrists tell them that every night before you go to sleep, write down 3 good things about your day or 3 things that you really like about yourself. And then in the morning, read it back to yourself. So if you're having trouble seeing the positive things or figuring out what your strengths are, just simplify it. It can just be any good thing in your day, anything that you like about yourself, just write it down and then read it back to yourself, and just do this every night. And then eventually it won't be so hard to think of those positive things or those happy things or figure out what your strengths are, because you're so used to doing it. You already know, if you're starting fresh, it might be hard at first, but after you make a habit out of saying and doing these positive things, it becomes second nature to you. It's easy. And then the next thing, which Melanie already said, is to surround yourself with good and positive people. And I don't just mean people that are not going to put you down or aren't good or are going to be nice to you, but also people that practice that same attitude of self-love and self-compassion and confidence, because they may not be putting you down, but if you see them practicing those behaviors where they're putting themselves down, then I think that'll have an effect on you too, you know. You definitely have to make sure that you're with like-minded people that are trying to achieve the same thing, because that way you can help each other in that regard, you know. Even with anything like wearing hijab, it's definitely a lot easier to be confident in your hijab and in your choice in hijab if you're with other people that are trying to do that same thing. So not only do you want to have good friends and family that are, you know, motivating you and supporting you and having a positive attitude towards you, but you have to make sure that they're doing that towards themselves too. And that goes as far as, you know, just the whole community and society that you're in, the music you listen to, the TV you're watching, everything is putting some sort of message in your head. So you really have to step back and analyze, what do I need to cut out because it's not benefiting me, and what things can I put in place of it that are going to benefit me and are going to help me to achieve these goals that I've set for myself, and are going to help me get the self-confidence and have the self-image and self-esteem that I want to have. And then I feel like those are the two most important things in my book, just your attitude and who you're around. And that's honestly really all I had to say about this. Melanie did a great job covering it. So I feel like we can just take questions now. I don't know if everybody can see the chat box, but if you ask us questions in there, we can answer them.
And I know that sometimes for whatever reason, people can't access the chat box, so you are free to ask any questions on Snapchat or Instagram on the promo pic, and I will see it. But there are a couple questions. So I'm going to address this first question, and Hoda, you can take the second one. The first one is, well, it's not this, the second question, but basically she's saying, you said to try to not put yourself down and be confident, but how do you do that is my question. So first, it has to really come from within. If you don't truly believe the great things about yourself, then you're going to have a hard time to, one, stop putting yourself down if that is something you're in the habit of doing, and number two, telling yourself that you are in fact really good at these XYZ qualities. So first, it has to really truly come from within. But if that is something that's difficult for you, then exactly what Hoda said, fake it till you make it. You need to then train yourself to feel that way by telling yourself that. And even though you might not truly believe it, if you tell yourself it enough and do your best to project those feelings and, you know, those strengths, and especially if you're doing something with those strengths, like if you are really, really good with children, you know that that's a huge strength, then you say, okay, I'm really good with children, so I'm going to watch my friend's kid every however long and let her and her husband go out for, you know, a date night. And while I do that, we're going to do this activity, and, you know, I'm going to do all these great things with him. So if you're acting on those strengths, and you're going to feel good about yourself, number one, for doing something to serve Allah and to serve your community and your friends, but at the same time, you're going to feel good about that strength in general, and that this is something that you're capable of and worthy of achieving, you know, receiving that praise from yourself because you know you are capable. So acting on it is extremely important, in addition to feeling that from within. And if you don't have that, if that is something you really struggle with, then yeah, like what Hoda was saying about faking it till you make it, you just have to keep telling yourself that until you believe it, basically. Hoda, do you have anything to add to that question?
No, I think you covered it.
Okay, you want to take the second question?
Is this Zainab's question?
Yeah.
Okay, so she said, so if one is trying to project and internalize a certain image of confidence through not talking bad about oneself, how do they maintain a level of realness? So I think realness is relative, because to you, I mean, I think if you've practiced a lot of like self-deprecating tendencies and kind of grown accustomed to that negative image, then the way you feel about yourself definitely will feel real to you. But if you step aside, then I think a lot of what you're feeling about yourself or seeing about yourself isn't true at all. So it really depends on what you're going to define as real. I mean, you definitely need to acknowledge, you know, where your shortcomings are and what your weaknesses are, challenges, I think that's a better word, where you need to be challenging yourself. But you need to have compassion towards yourself when you do that too, because I think a lot of our perceived flaws or our perceived weaknesses are something that we kind of created for ourselves and wouldn't have been there in the first place if it wasn't for us always telling ourselves that or thinking that all the time. And I think nobody's going to know you better than you. So I really do think if you take the time to just really understand yourself and really, 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 really get to know yourself, then you'll have a good sense of what's real and what's not and what things you need to work on. One thing that I wanted to touch on earlier, but I actually forgot, is I think it's really important to understand yourself. You really need to learn how to be alone without feeling lonely. Like, you have to get comfortable with yourself. And a friend actually brought this up to me because I was asking them, what do you think self-compassion or self-esteem or self-love means? And it's like, I think it's loving yourself and being able to be alone with yourself. And I think that's something a lot of people struggle with, especially me. I was just in Egypt for the past month. And it was just me and my parents, and it was my first time back in like 13 years. So I didn't have anybody like American with me to really experience it. And I remember for the first week, I felt so, so, so lonely. Here I have access to anybody I want to talk to. I have access to my friends. If I'm feeling down or whatever, I have access to everything, even like Netflix. If I'm feeling lonely, I can turn to Netflix. But while I was there, I didn't have a cell phone plan yet. And when I wanted to talk to my friends, the time difference would get in the way. I didn't have internet. I didn't have anything. And I was kind of in an area that was a little secluded. So it's not like I could really go out and like busy myself with like the city just yet. So I would really just sit there and I was like, oh my God, Huda, why do you feel so lonely? This is not okay. I should be fine right now. And so over those few days or that week, I really had to develop an understanding of myself and why do I feel lonely and why this isn't okay, and then figure out ways that I was gonna be okay with it because it was just a reality I had to face. So I think sometimes a good way to figure out what is real and what your strengths or weaknesses are is to put yourself in a new or uncomfortable situation. And then from there, you'll shine. Either your strengths will come out or your weaknesses will come out. And for me at that point, my weakness was loneliness and being alone without feeling lonely. So over time, over that month, I was facing a lot of new challenges and I was alone a lot of the time, and, kind of a foreign place to me, but you kind of just built a resistance to it and a strength, or like you kind of just familiarize yourself a little bit and then you'll be okay. So I think you just have to challenge yourself in those aspects where you are weak, and then you'll know what's real and what's not. I hope that answers the question.
I wanted to jump in if I can.
Yeah, go ahead.
So, I think that what she was kind of asking is like, you want to appear being real to other people, like being real as in like yourself, or, like there isn't this facade or this formality. And when you're talking about like confidence and not talking bad about yourself, not putting yourself down, how do you do that without looking like you're kind of uppity or like, I completely get what you're saying, Zainab, and I think like I have friends who follow that so much that it's like not real, and I know exactly what you're saying. Like I'm like, dude, just okay. We all know that you're like this and you're like that. Just chill out. Like they'll never say anything bad about themselves ever, and never admit it, because like to say that that's a weakness, right? But I think it's the way that you say it. There's a way to be self-deprecating without being self-deprecating. Like there's a way to talk about your weaknesses without really putting yourself down, but just saying, I'm a human being, I'm normal, here are my flaws, and that's okay, and they don't affect me in a serious way. It's just something that I have to deal with, something I was born with, whatever, something that just I'm not good at, whatever it is. And like what I was saying earlier about being very careful about the words that I choose. Like I won't say, I have an ugly this. I'll say, like, my this is less than perfect. You know what I mean? Like choosing your words is very important, because the perception that one person gets between those two phrases is totally different. Like, you don't hear that word ugly, which is a strong word, and it can leave a certain connotation in somebody else's mind. And so I think that, yeah, and especially when you're with a group of friends that it's like, really good friends, and they already know your weaknesses. So this need to kind of like be real with people is important. And so I think that you can draw that line by you know, talking about those things without truly, truly being self-deprecating. And then also like being careful about who you're talking, you know, if it's like your boss, that's a totally different story. But when you're with a group of friends, obviously you can be more laid back about it, and the way that you kind of word things. I hope that answers your question.
I actually want to add one thing. So this is something me and my friends do sometimes. We kind of just get deep sometimes and emotional sometimes, and we will sit there and ask each other, okay, tell me what my weaknesses are. Tell me like what you see that's, you know, weak, or what is a perceived flaw or whatever. And that really, really, really helps, because sometimes it is really hard to be honest with yourself. But if you have a solid group of friends who are definitely just like, you know, you can hear something from them and you're not going to be offended by it because you know they're just looking out and you know they're going to be honest with you, is such a blessing, and it's such a great thing. So if you do have people like that in your life where you know you can trust their word and you know that they're looking out for you, then just straight up ask them, listen, what do you think I need to work on? What do you think my weaknesses are? And also, if you're having a hard time thinking of your strengths, then have your friends tell you that too, because I assure you they're going to have plenty of things to say about you that you may not be able to say about yourself. So if you're having trouble figuring it out, just ask somebody.
Okay, I actually have a question for you, Huda, and then I think we can wrap up. So my question is, before I even met you and before you became our It Girl, I knew of you.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought that you would be perfect because I knew that you were very confident in who you were. So, and that was without me knowing you too well, just like having small interactions with you. So my question is, how do you think that you gain that confidence in yourself and in your abilities?
To be honest, I think it was through a lot of like struggle and hardship. I know I don't get that personal about my life, but you know, nobody's life is easy and perfect and just like jolly, you know, all the time. And so I think it was kind of going through those emotional situations or tough situations, expecting to learn something about myself. You know, I didn't want to just like be like an innocent bystander in my own life and have all these things happen to me without really like being critical of it and taking it as an opportunity to grow and learn. So I think I just tried to take whatever life threw at me as a lesson and tried to learn something from it. And from there, I was able to develop a much stronger sense of self and sense of identity and kind of assuredness in who I am. So I guess my advice is just try to learn from everything that comes your way and look at things with an open mind and a fresh perspective, and go into life expecting to take something out of it. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, that's awesome. That's funny. I never really think about it in terms of like the struggles.
Yeah, I think going through struggles is how I learned pretty much everything about myself. You know, prior to certain experiences in my life, I was kind of just, you know, whatever, just cruising, chilling. I didn't really have to think about much, or didn't really ever have to develop a sense of identity. And then when I felt like my identity was weak, or I was feeling not too confident or whatever, I tried to just like assess those situations with a different perspective instead of looking at it in a negative way and letting it just kind of pile down on me and affect my whole, you know, attitude. I just tried to take something from it, and then I just learned from it, and now everything feels a lot more natural and real, like Zainab was asking, because it was real to me, you know?
Okay, that's awesome. All right, so if you guys don't have any other questions, we will wrap up. Huda, do you have anything else that you want to add?
I feel like that's pretty much it. Do you?
No, I think that's it. If you guys had any other or any more questions, feel free to leave them on our social media or email me, and we'll get to them, inshallah. So, yeah, I think we can wrap up. So we'll end with dua. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. والعصر إن الإنسان لفي خسر إلا الذين آمنوا وعملوا الصالحات وتواصوا بالحق وتواصوا بالصبر. Ameen ya Rabbil Alameen. So takeaway of today, you are awesome and you are a blessed person with a ton of strengths and skills and talents that nobody else has. So the question is, what are you going to do about it? How are you going to use those strengths to serve Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, to serve your community, and to feel good about yourself in the process? So really think about those things, and until next time, inshallah, we will see you at the next live stream.
All right, masalama, guys.
Assalamu alaikum.